Let's look at how we can use pivot tables to build frequency and relative frequency tables. First, you'll insert pivot table in the same way as before, but this time you're going to drag the same qualitative variable into both the rows and the values areas. If you want to add a relative frequency column, you'll grab that same qualitative variable one more time and drag it into the values area again. Then we'll change the value field settings to show it as a percentage. I'll show you how to do that. First, we're going to create the exact same frequency table we just did for categories, but this time using a pivot table instead of the COUNTIF formula. First, I'll click inside the range of data that stores my original table, then click the pivot table button. I'm checking that it has the correct range selected. That looks good. It selected my table, and I'm going to place this in an existing worksheet in I-89 to start. From there, I am going to put in my category and put that same qualitative variable in the value section. That automatically gives me a count, which is much faster than using the COUNTIF function, and you also don't have to worry about listing the categories yourself, spelling them wrong, or missing any categories. To get the relative frequencies, I'm going to drag it into the value section again, and click the little drop down to go to Value Field Settings. Then I'm going to click Show Values As and change it to % of grand total. That's going to write this as a percent. Right now, notice that the column is called COUNTIF Category 2. I'm going to change that to just be called % of category by adjusting this custom name and pressing OK. Now I've got my regular frequencies and my relative frequencies. We're going to build another one for practice. This time we'll create the frequency table for the method paid. So again, I click anywhere inside the original data, insert pivot table, check that it selected the right range, my right table's highlighted, and I'm going to place this in my existing worksheet about right here, and press OK. This time, I am going to drag in method paid into the rows. Method paid goes in the values, and then it goes in the value section again. But because we don't want it to say the counts twice, this is where I need to click my little drop-down menu, go to Value Field Settings, Show Values As, and switch it over to % of grand total. I'm also going to change the name to be % of method paid instead of count, and press OK. This was meant to show you a second pivot table example for frequency and relative frequency. Finally, to relate this back to what we did in Learning Outcome 3 with pivot tables, I'll show you how you can make a two-way frequency table. That means it shows the counts according to two categories at once. So I'm clicking inside of this range again, go to Insert Pivot Table. I'm going to place it just down here below the instructions. And this time, we're going to put, according to the instructions, category into the rows, method paid into the column, so I drag it over because by default Excel wanted me to place it into the rows, and then you can actually put category or method paid in the values. It doesn't matter which one you pick because either way you're summarizing the counts based off of both of those categories. Then you can look for patterns. It seems like I only ever pay for gas on my credit card, for example. That's an interesting pattern. And that almost all of my payments, 17 of them, are direct payments. Second amount highest is the credit card, and the least is the debit card. But of all the payments I put on debit, 9 of them were miscellaneous. And those are some interesting patterns that I can pick out from this two-way frequency table. So overall, pivot tables are the faster way to create frequency and relative frequency tables, but you could also build the table yourself using a COUNTIF function. The most important thing is that you recognize frequency tables are your most basic way to summarize qualitative data.